Dragon Ball Super manga chapter number 47 is now officially in the history books, as Goku and Vegeta are left defenseless after suffering a devastating loss by the hands of Moro. Our heroes are now left with no alternative option in stopping Moro before collecting all 7 of the Dragon Balls, as Moro's ultimate plan is to regain his youth and magic that he once had, in further destroying all life within the universe, as Moro's ultimate goal now is to gain all 7 Dragon Balls and restoring himself to what he once was before. As once more, before we begin, if you are new to this channel and of course love Dragon Ball and anime, then don't forget to go on ahead and smash that subscribe button and turn on all notifications by clicking on the bell icon to never miss a single upload. And if you guys are stoked, ready, and excited for more Dragon Ball content to come in the foreseeable future, then be sure to go on ahead and slap a big fat like down below, alongside checking out more awesome videos such as this down in the description box below, as we kick off Dragon Ball Super manga chapter number 47 with Goku and Vegeta having to wake up from their slumber. And as Goku and Vegeta wake up, they are well aware that Moro now is beginning to kill off various Namekians on the planet. As the Namekians begin to grovel, they begin to ask, but how? This can't be. He was our final hope, in reference of course to the Namekian saviors that combined their powers in the previous manga chapter that Moro had now easily put down. With both Goku and Vegeta now acknowledging this, Vegeta goes on to state that fiend, he's grown even more powerful than we thought. As Goku goes on to state he's probably absorbing the energy from the whole planet, including us. As Vegeta goes on to reply, damn it. Meanwhile, instead of fighting back, all we can do is hide, like scared rats. As one of the Namekian children goes on to state, if only my powers were stronger. Goku goes on to reply, don't think like that. If it were not for you, we be dead. As one of the other Namekians that is currently with Goku and Vegeta goes on to state, at this rate, the village is doomed, and he'll have 4 Dragon Balls. As Goku goes on to ask, how's he finding the Dragon Balls in the first place? As Vegeta goes on to reply, using the villages. As Goku begs the question as to asking, huh? Vegeta goes on to further tell Goku he's locating each Namekian settlement and attacking them one by one, just like how Frieza and his people went about it. As Goku goes on to state, oh, cause Moro can read Chi. As Goku continues, but if he's not zeroing in on the Dragon Balls themselves, then we should be good, as long as he's in the dark about the final one. As Goku looks on over and noticing the final Dragon Ball they have, Vegeta goes on to reply to Goku by stating, one can only hope. As Goku in confusion looks towards the Elder Namekian and asking, hey, can you get a message to the saviors and tell them to get away from the villages? Then at least they don't gotta die for nothing. As the Elder replies to Goku, indeed, I will let them know. As Goku and Vegeta are both helpless in this scenario, Goku goes on ahead to continue, and we'd be smart to suppress our powers now. As Vegeta obviously doesn't agree in wanting to fight Moro, he goes on ahead to say, damn it, because they have no other option than to suppress themselves in keeping the final Dragon Ball away from Moro. Meanwhile, back on the battlefield, we get to notice how Moro is standing over the corpses of various dead Namekians, including the savior himself. And as Moro begins to look around, his assistant Raspberry begins to ravage through the huts, as he goes on to state, come on, where'd they stash that thing? And the scene in and of itself, with all of the dead bodies around Moro, this Baphomet satanic-like character, he has no concerns as to what is going on around him other than finding and locating the Dragon Ball. As his assistant goes on to state, it would have made our lives much easier if they have just spilled the beans, but none of them would talk. These folks are strange. And as Moro is simply looking around, suddenly something begins to catch his attention. As he looks on over within one of the buildings, he goes on to tell his assistant there, search that structure, Cranberry. As Cranberry goes on to state, okay, yep, I found it, Moro. How did you know it was there though? As Moro smiles, he refuses to answer to Cranberry. As Cranberry further goes on to state, wait, can you detect where the Dragon Balls are? As once again Moro refuses to answer him, he goes on to state, excellent. The next one is that way. Off we go, Cranberry, which is very ominous in and of itself that Moro is simply able to detect and find the Dragon Balls without using any kind of radar. But meanwhile, back on Earth, Dende and Mr. Popo are staring up in the sky and wondering what exactly is going on far out in space, as Popo goes on to ask, "What is it, Kami?" As Dende replies, "Something terrible is happening on my home planet." As Piccolo arrives, he goes on to ask, "You feel it too?" As Dende by surprise goes on to ask, "Oh, Piccolo." Piccolo goes on to state, "A few days ago, I stopped sensing Goku and Vegeta's chi signatures here on Earth. Maybe they've traveled to planet Namek." As Piccolo continues, "Something's definitely happening, and it's not good." So for those that wanted to see Piccolo more or less involved, it looks like he's still on Earth, unable to fully understand the entire situation that's going down on planet Namek, but nonetheless, Piccolo is aware that he stopped feeling Goku and Vegeta's energy signals a few days ago ever since they left planet Earth. However, the terror doesn't end there, as back on planet Namek, we notice a Namekian running for his life carrying a Dragon Ball, and as he's trying to get away over out in the sky, we notice a shadow looming down over the Namek, which Moro now is flying over him, seemingly enough stalking him for that very Dragon Ball, in which I really do love the presence and the eeriness of Moro stalking these people, because in this manga chapter, it looks like Moro is very sinister, very devious, and very cunning in his approach, because instead of just killing the Namekians and taking the Dragon Balls, what he's doing instead is instilling fear in their souls. He's stalking them, he's torturing them, he's murdering them in droves, but not only that, stealing the life energy of the planet, stealing the life energy of the inhabitants, and stealing the Dragon Balls. As Moro comes crashing on down, he murders the individual in collecting now 6 Dragon Balls with only 1 remaining. And as Moro is sitting down, Cranberry goes on to tell Moro, "Incredible, Moro, we're really picking up the pace." As Moro points his fingers with his eyes closed, he goes on to tell Cranberry the final ball is near where we first landed. As Cranberry goes on to tell Moro, "Oh yeah? That first village was hiding it all along? Okay, let's go get it." And as they begin to head towards that direction, we notice how Goku and Vegeta are still recuperating inside, suppressing their energy, having to change their clothing. As the Namekian elder walks in with Goku and Vegeta's clothing pieces, he goes on to state, "Your clothes looked something like this, correct?" As Goku laughs, he goes on to state, "Haha, it's perfect!" As Vegeta so casually goes on to tell him the symbol was unnecessary. And as Goku looks at his hands, he goes on to state, "Just a little more. With a little more chi, I can use instant transmission and go get us some sensu beans." But then, Vegeta and Goku begin to pick up something ominous. As they look on over, Vegeta goes on to state, Kakarot, did you feel that?" As Goku goes on to state, Moro's on the move," knowing the fact that right now Moro is coming right for them because they have the final Dragon Ball. As the elder goes on to ask them both, what, you sense something?" As Goku goes on to tell him, "No doubt, he's flying straight towards us." As the Namekian elder panics, he goes on to state, "Oh no, do you think he can detect us?" As Goku states, "No, that's not it, because there are bound to be other survivors around the planet." As Vegeta goes on to state, "That bastard, is he somehow able to sense the Dragon Balls directly?" As the Nameks begin to panic, Vegeta had figured it out, and Goku and Vegeta quickly put on their gi, as Goku goes on to state, "You 3 stay hidden here." As the elder goes on to ask, what will you do?" As Goku goes on to tell him, "Gotta meet him head on. No choice." As Goku walks out, the elder goes on to state, "But you 2 just barely recovered from nearly dying." As Vegeta goes on to tell him, "Old man, I need to know something." As the elder asks what, Vegeta goes on to ask, "Given that I slaughtered all of those Namekians years ago, how do you feel about me?" As the elder Namek holds his tongue for a bit, he goes on to reply to Vegeta, "You speak of the attack on the elder, right? We do not forget things so easily." As Vegeta goes on to ask him, "So you hold a grudge then?" As the elder goes on to tell him, "Grudges and hatred can only bring about further conflict. The Namekian people are not so foolish to indulge in such things." As Vegeta goes on to state, "I see." The Namek goes on to tell him, "We only wish to preserve peace on our homeworld, nothing more." As meanwhile, Goku stands in anticipation waiting for Moro on a cliff, Vegeta soon after joins him as he goes on to tell him, "Kakarot, if you survive, make restoring this planet to how it once was your top priority." As Goku's surprised by what Vegeta said, he goes on to state, Okay? As Vegeta goes on to tell him, that said, it would take a miracle for either of us to walk away from this alive. As Goku goes on to tell him true, but what other option is there? As Goku smiles while he begins to sweat, the ship so casually approaches closer and closer and closer. As Moro looks outside of his window, he spots Goku and Vegeta. And as puzzled as he is, Moro goes on to state those two, they're alive. They were hiding this whole time, huh? Those Galactic Patrol cowards. As Cranberry goes on to tell Moro, huh? Oh, Vegeta and his pal? I thought they might still be kicking. Those Saiyans are a tough bunch. As Moro goes on to tell him, I will not suffer them to scamper about any longer. This time, they will perish at my hands. And as Goku and Vegeta await Moro's arrival, Vegeta goes on to state he's caught on to our scent. Yep, and he's here. And at that moment, Goku and Vegeta, even though they understand that they very well might die in this fight, they still try and power up anyway, as both Goku and Vegeta raise their energy levels as high as they possibly can. We also notice how as they do so, their bodies are beginning to break down on them. And even while they shake, even while they quiver, Goku looks at Vegeta, Vegeta looks at Goku, they both smile at each other as they charge right for Moro's ship. And as they do so, Cranberry's beginning to panic because he notices that Goku and Vegeta are heading straight for them. As Cranberry cries out, they're coming! Moro stands up and he notices how Goku and Vegeta are heading right for his ship at a very high speed. And as Goku and Vegeta, based on their own expressions, are seemingly enough nervous, Moro is not, but instead he smiles. But then out of nowhere, the Galactic Patrol ship pops out of nowhere as it stops Goku and Vegeta. Moro looks up confused as to what exactly this is. Out of nowhere, Beerus pops up wielding his gun as Cranberry cries out, Galactic Patrol, with Goku stating it's Beerus. So Beerus shows up, he's aiming directly at Moro, as the first thing that Beerus does to the ship is shoot away and breaking down its wings. So now the ship doesn't have anything to fly on because the ship now is heading right back down onto the ground. And as Cranberry begins to panic, he has absolutely no idea how to handle the situation. But then Beerus notices how Moro bursts out of the glass in having to escape the ship from falling. Beerus goes on to immediately contact one of his pilots and asking Agent Iriko, bring us up, as the pilot goes on to state roger that in having to follow Moro directly. So now as Moro is seemingly enough flying away, Beerus orders the pilot to fly the ship in following him, but Moro then unleashes massive amounts of ki blasts that rain down onto the ship. But being that Beerus is very fast and agile, he easily counters the energy blast by moving away from them and using the rockets on his feet and boosting him up in the air as Goku cries out, whoa! Beerus is getting the job done, and Moro is beginning to get very frustrated because as he's attempting to kill Beerus, for whatever reason, is easily able to dodge all of Moro's attacks. And as Beerus ascends above Moro, he quickly uses a device on his wrist in which he fires off this plasma-like goo that fully captures Moro completely, trapping him in this cocoon-like substance which Beerus uses to finally apprehend Moro. Vegeta's shocked, Goku's shocked, I'm shocked, as I'm sure a lot of you guys are shocked that Beerus was able to do this so easily. And as Moro is trapped within, he goes on to state, what is this? What have you done? And with Beerus having to pull Moro in, he slams him back down onto the ground as seemingly enough, it looks like Beerus had apprehended and captured Moro completely, getting the job done and having to bring him to justice. And even then, Goku and Vegeta are so baffled as to what exactly had just happened. Moro stands up after having to be slammed onto the ground and he's trying to escape. He's trying to cut through the goo, he's trying to bite and claw his way out, but it's not working. As Beerus goes on to tell him, we developed this capturing device just for pinning you down. You won't tear it apart that easily. As Moro is getting very, very angry, he goes on to tell Beerus, curse you, Galactic Patrol, because there's nothing that Moro can seemingly do while he's trapped inside. And as Goku lands down, he goes on to state Beerus. Beerus goes on to cry out, Goku, Vegeta, how good to see you both unharmed. Meanwhile, back over on the crashed ship, Cranberry crawls out as he notices that Moro had been apprehended. As Cranberry cries out, "Huh? They caught him?" But then meanwhile, back with our heroes, Goku goes on to state, "Wait, you're gonna take him back to prison like that?" As Maris goes on to answer Goku, "No, I'm afraid this isn't strong enough to hold him for long. It's just a temporary fix to keep him in place until we found a solution. Now, get him out of here." As the Galactic Patrol ship flies above, Moro looks up, as does Goku and Vegeta, but then suddenly Goku goes on to ask, "Is someone else up there?" As Maris cries out, "Please, hurry, Agent Jocko, hurry! This restraint won't hold the perp forever." As on the ship, all of a sudden we keep hearing bickering and fighting, as it goes on to state, "Move your butt! It's your big moment, guy! Damn it, your gargantuan gut won't fit through the damn door." As we notice how Jocko is struggling to push Majin Buu out, finally, he manages to do so. And as Jocko pushes Majin Buu off of the ship, he goes crashing down with him. And as Majin Buu lands behind him, we notice that this entire time, Jocko had been fighting with Majin Buu on the ship. Why? Because Jocko wanted him off the ship from the beginning. But then as Goku looks on over, he goes on to cry out, "Huh? Boo's here? You brought him along too, Jocko?" As Jocko cries out, "Get him off me!" As Vegeta goes on to ask, "He still hasn't awoken yet?" As Jocko looks on over, he goes on to state he woke up earlier, but the big guy just got motion sickness on the trip over, damn it. "Hey, Iriko, learn how to drive, why don't you, damn it?" Screaming at the pilot as everyone seems to be confused as to what is going on, but then Majin Buu sits back up. And as Majin Buu sits up, he is finally now awake. As Jocko looks on over, he goes on to state, "You're up! Great! Now hurry up and seal off that baddie's magic powers." As Vegeta goes on to state, "You mean to say that Buu accessed the memories of the Great Lord of Lords?" As Jocko goes on to tell him, "Yep, our organization's got a galactically licensed medium hypnotist in bringing back old memories." And as Majin Buu looks the opposite way, Jocko goes on ahead to grab him and stating, "No, not that way, dummy. Moro's over here." And as Majin Buu slowly turns back around, he finally spots Moro. As Majin Buu goes on to state, Moro is so cunningly looking at Majin Buu with a very sinister look in his eye. As Majin Buu goes on to state, "Him. I remember him." And as he says that, Moro's confused. As Majin Buu goes on to cry out, "You're the bad guy I caught way back." As Moro goes on to ask, "Wait, could you really be the Great Lord of Lords? No, how could you still be alive?" As Majin Buu is very infuriated having to retain the Great Lord of Lords' memory, he goes on to state, You killed so many of my friends." So now Majin Buu is pissed, Moro's pissed, and as Moro is inside of this trapped barrier, he goes on to cry out, "Why, you?" And he uses all of the hatred, all of the anger that he has within him to finally blow his way through the actual capturing device. As Maris goes on to cry out, "What is this? No, I can't contain him." As Moro blows his way out of the actual sealing device, Goku, Vegeta, and Jocko are left absolutely speechless as an enraged Moro goes on to state, "The Great Lord of Lords, I have not forgotten the debt I owe you." As Majin Buu goes on to tell him, "And I didn't forget what you did. You don't get to pick on everyone anymore." As Maris at that point's like, "We're in trouble," because at this point Goku and Vegeta still can't do anything in the situation, being that their full power has not been restored. But Moro and Majin Buu, who seemingly enough does have the Daikaio's memories, are about to throw down. As Majin Buu raises his power level even more, he cries out, "No more!" and powering up so much so to right then and there Majin Buu and Moro are staring each other down as they're about to go toe-to-toe for the very first time, in which they do so because Majin Buu is the first person to take action. As a matter of fact, as soon as Majin Buu charges towards Moro's direction, Moro instantly uses his manipulation magic techniques in having to raise the planet's energy in the form of a barrier to deflect Majin Buu in attacking him, but Majin Buu, being Majin Buu, flies straight through the blast in and of itself and connecting connecting a thunderous right hook to Moro's face. And at that point, I really do enjoy how Majin Buu didn't do anything throughout the entirety of Dragon Ball Super, but now, against an antagonist like this, finally Majin Buu is taking action and being credible and reliable in a situation to where they need him the most. And as Majin Buu connects this thunderous right shot, Goku goes on to state Buu dove right through the fire and flames. They didn't even phase him. And as Buu knocks Moro away, Moro looks on over as he goes flying right back at Majin Buu, and as he does so, he did the exact same thing he did to the Namekian savior in having to pierce right through his body. But unbeknownst to Moro, as he does this, as he claws his way through Majin Buu's torso, he thinks that this is essentially the end of Majin Buu and the Daikaio. But as his hand is sticking out on the opposite side of Majin Buu, as Moro smiles, so does Majin Buu, because Majin Buu literally gets face to face with Moro and laughs right in his face. Quickly having to use his body in flinging Moro away, Majin Buu then fires back and having to shoot out multiple energy blasts from his actual mouth, as Moro is left with no other choice than having to deflect the blast in and of itself, because Moro has no idea who exactly he's dealing with, because this isn't the Daikaio, this is Majin Buu. And as Majin Buu had managed to hit Moro with all of these attacks, Majin Buu is smiling, but through the dust, through the debris, and through the smoke, we see Moro holding up a massive energy ball in his hand. As Maris goes on to state how shocking, I never considered that Buu would possess such strength. As Jocko even states, I'm glad I didn't make him mad then. And as Moro is holding up this massive energy blast, Goku goes on to state that move again, because he's using the planet's energy once again to his advantage. And Moro is holding nothing back, but instead, he uses this massive energy blast and tossing it in Majin Buu's direction. But Majin Buu isn't fearful at all, he isn't afraid, but instead he charges towards the blast and kicking it directly away from him. Something that we haven't seen Goku or Vegeta do in this entire arc, but instead, Majin Buu uses his agile body in getting behind Moro, and as he does so, punches Moro so hard on the top of his head that it sends Moro crashing back down to the ground. And as Goku and Vegeta are watching, Goku goes on to say, "That's it, Buu," with Vegeta having to tell Goku, "Didn't you notice earlier, Kakarot?" As Goku turns around, Vegeta goes on to tell him Buu's energy levels aren't dropping. Moro's energy absorption must not work on him. As Goku goes on to state, "Wow, you're right! Buu can do it!" As Moro stands back up, he goes on to tell Majin Buu, how did you come by such abilities?" As Majin Buu laughs in Moro's face, the manga chapter comes to a close. And what an incredible chapter this was, because now, if there ever was to be a hero, a new hero to the story, that person very well might likely be Majin Buu, considering the fact that Vegeta just confirmed that Moro can't steal his energy. And on top of that, it looks like Majin Buu had not only retained the Daikaio's memories, but also a few of his abilities and powers as well. So Moro now is at a huge disadvantage, because there's nothing that Moro can seemingly enough do to put a dent in Majin Buu. However, there is one considerable factor going into this fight, and that is the Dragon Balls. If Moro were to gain access to the Dragon Balls, one can only imagine how strong he would be, or how strong he could ultimately become if he were to have his youth and full magic restored to him in this fight against Goku, Vegeta, and Majin Buu. But by the end of it, I want to get your thoughts in the comment section below. What are your overall thoughts on Majin Buu being able to hold his own and seemingly enough get the upper hand on Moro? Do you guys think that Majin Buu is going to be the hero of the story, or do you think that in some way, shape, or form, Moro is going to simply turn things around in having to get back at Majin Buu and get back at Goku and Vegeta? Or do you guys think something else might come about to where Moro is secretly hiding something? Again, I really did enjoy this manga chapter because it really did display a different side to Majin Buu, someone that we haven't seen do anything since Dragon Ball Super had aired, and it's pretty cool to finally see Majin Buu engage against the villain. But now the question lingers, where do we go from here? So again, let me know what you all think in the comment section below. Thank you all so much for watching, guys. Once more, if you guys are stoked, ready, and excited for more Dragon Ball content to come, then be sure to go on ahead and slap a big fat like down below if you guys are new to the channel. Hit that subscribe button, everybody. Turn on all notifications. Tune back in for the next video. We have some bombshell videos to be dropping within the next couple of days, so make sure you guys tune back in for that. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll be seeing you all down in the comment section below. Have a great day, everybody. Peace.
This is the Galactic Emperor of the Universe, and of course I'm here to tell you to subscribe to UnrealEntGaming.
Also follow UnrealEntGaming on these social media platforms to stay connected at all times. And if you don't, then very soon you will all be dead! Oh, did someone say UnrealEntGaming? Oh my god.
The fuck's up, on? Put on some clothes!
Well, why don't you put on any clothes?
What? I don't need clothes. Jesus Christ, that's huge! What, Broly?
Freezer.
Uh-oh.
Prepare to die!